Hello, and welcome to the PR Pace podcast. I'm your host, Annie Pace Scranton, coming to you live today from Sorrentino Media, where we are in person, IRL, with Jenna Stauffer, a beloved client at Pace PR. Jenna is a world renowned broker with Sotheby's Realty, and she's based down in Florida in Key West. Yes, how are things down in Key West right now?
Things in Key West are good. It is warming up, and it means since we're almost in May right now, so this is it. We're gonna have heat for the rest of the year, pretty much.
I'm
But
jealous
it's
because
nice.
we're here one day before May and it's like 48 degrees out in New York. Not my favorite. So I know you grew up in the Midwest,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
tell us how a Midwestern girl winds up working in Key West, Florida, selling very expensive, beautiful homes in such a sort of prestigious, like really unique area, part of the country.
So my story, how I ended up in Key West, I didn't. First of all, I did not think that I would ever end up in Key West. Let's just start by saying that. And what really happened to me is after I graduated from university, I moved to North Carolina. So I was living in Greenville, North Carolina, and I was working as a sports anchor there. So
For a local network.
for a local network, yes.
Okay, so fellow TV person.
Yes.
Okay.
So my main thing was I would anchor the weekend sportscast,
Mhm.
and then I did weekday reporting as well. And this was in 2009.
Okay.
So what happened is the station had to make some cuts. And they cut my sports position,
Mm.
and they said, "Well, you can stick around for news, but you have to tie into I'd have to lock into probably a 3-year contract." And at the time, I thought that sports reporting was going to be the path that I took.
Okay.
So I had a little bit of a severance pay, and I'm like, okay, what do I do right now? Where do I go? I didn't want to go back to Indiana. That was kind of always like a goal of mine, was to get out of Indiana. I come from
Mhm.
a really small town,
Mhm.
and a lot of people kind of I don't want to say stuck because people are very happy there, but
Yeah. You wanted to go experience some new stuff.
correct.
Yeah.
So I always had wanted to live in Florida for some reason. That was kind
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
on my radar.
Yeah.
The only connection that I had in Florida was kind of a friend of my mom, or a connection, I guess you could say, that they rented apartments out in Key West. So the next thing I know, I have this opportunity to come to Key West, and it was only supposed to be a base. I was going to find another sports reporting job somewhere in the state.
Like a little holdover.
Correct.
Got it.
So
Okay.
just to have on my resume while I'm looking for other sports jobs, I've got the Florida address.
Right. Got it.
And I left all my stuff in North Carolina. I just went to Key West with 2 suitcases and a one-way plane ticket,
Oh, wow.
and didn't have my car there. Like, in Key West, you can get around on a bike, so that was my plan kind of at first.
Okay. Cool. I like it.
But again, I thought this was gonna be so temporary.
Right.
And 16 years later,
There you
I'm
are.
still there.
Okay, so wait a minute. So were you always a big sports fan growing up?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
My dad and brother were huge sports fanatics, so of
Okay.
course, being just around them, I kind of
Yeah, yeah.
enjoyed watching games, and
Yeah.
I probably wasn't the most knowledgeable person when it comes to
Okay.
sports, but I knew I could learn. I liked the challenge of that.
Absolutely.
And I kind of wanted to do the sports angle because there weren't as many females in
There was an opportunity.
there was an opportunity.
Mhm.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's why I chose that path.
Got it. And then
Yes.
when you got to Key West, did you think were you planning to go into sports reporting when you got there?
Yes. So I was planning to go into sports reporting. I had an agent that was kind of helping me set up interviews and different auditions. So I started doing that throughout the state. And I was constantly rejected,
Ah,
constantly told, you need more experience. You're too green. And so that was, of course, frustrating. But what ended up happening is soon after I moved to Key West, I ended up getting connected to this person. And I knew nothing about this, but for the past few years, he had been working on building a TV station, and he was actually going to be launching it in the Keys.
oh.
And so I got connected with him. He knew kind of my background in television and said, "Why don't you stay and help me launch this TV station? I'll give you your own show." And
You're like, yes, please, sign
yeah.
me up.
So that's ended up what kept me there.
Wow.
And so it was a big pivot though from sports because now it was a morning show. It was called Good Morning Florida Keys.
Mm-hmm.
And Key West attracts some incredible people. Like there's always people that well, you'll have part-time residents that have these fascinating stories.
Mm,
And then you also just have people visit the island that everybody has a story, right?
right.
And so when I was doing this show, I just loved it. I got to meet so many incredible people, and it was a platform. I was basically giving people a platform to share their story.
Right.
And I would get so inspired always by the
Oh.
stories I was hearing. And I was also promoting businesses, organizations in town. There's a lot of great nonprofits in the Keys and doing
Yeah.
that on the show. So,
Wow. So that
so
I could totally see you as a morning show anchor also. Did you love it?
I did. I loved it. It was
Yeah.
great. The station, it was kind of like I joked, it was the little station that could. So in the Keys, they didn't really watch TV. They didn't really want to advertise with the TV station. Everybody's out on the water, they're out on the boat. We
Makes
kind of
sense.
we're a couple years back from where, we
Yes.
should be. But it was an amazing experience for me. I, again, got to get really connected to the community and started seeing that, wow, I really love this place.
Right.
I started doing how I kind of pivoted then into real estate was I started doing real estate videos with that would air on my show then. I was
Oh.
working with other real estate agents and we were doing home tours of their properties, and that was always getting more views than a lot of my interviews.
Mm.
Like people were so interested in real estate, going
Yeah.
inside the homes. That also opened my eyes up to all the incredible properties that we have in Key West. There's so many, the homes are historic. There's so much charm to
Yeah.
them. You would have no idea what's like beyond the fence or beyond the gate, we always say.
Mm.
So I kind of, that was part of how I kind of got into real estate a little bit. And my passion was always TV. That's what I went to school for, broadcasting. So I said when I was getting into real estate that I wanted to be able to combine
Mhm.
television with real estate. I didn't know exactly how I was
Mhm.
going to do that, but I felt like those two could kind of go hand in hand, right? They could help each other.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you're TV, you're presenting, you're
Mhm.
showcasing,
Mhm.
you're drawing people in, and
Mhm.
that's what you do as a broker,
Mhm.
right? You're getting
Correct.
people, you're sort of the star of the show when you're leading someone through a new house, through a new property.
Right. And you get to share like the home story, right? Like I love sharing people's story. You get to share the
Mhm.
home story with anybody that's coming to tour it. And I love the marketing. Also, I do a lot of for any properties that I list, I do incorporate like I'll do videos. That's so powerful nowadays
Oh,
with
yeah.
agent walkthroughs and not just doing house tours, but kind of having a person in there and
And you use a drone on some of those videos
yes,
too,
yes.
right? I love those.
Yes.
What is it about like looking at beautiful homes on social media that keeps you just locked in and scrolling?
I don't know. I think everybody has like guilty pleasures, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes of watching like shows on HGTV, you
Mhm.
just get uh maybe it could be in a tropical location, or I live in a tropical location. So to me, sometimes I like looking at homes like here in
Mm.
New York City
Right.
or somewhere that's totally opposite of what I see every day. So I think people use looking at real estate, it's like this escape to them, right? Like they get to kind of take a little mental vacation for a little
That
bit
must
while
be
they
what it
watch.
is. Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Just turn your brain off and sort of enjoy for a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of wealth in Key West and a
Mhm.
lot of really amazing properties. Do you find it like challenging in that regard because there must be fewer inventory, or is it
Right.
really just that like is stuff opening up because is Key West somewhat transient? I mean,
So the thing with Key West is it's a small island, so it's only 2 miles by 4 miles. So we're
that's so
running out
small.
of land, right? And you can't build any more land. So we always have a lack of inventory. Like Key West is not indicative of what's going on in the national housing market. We
Right.
kind of march to our own beat. And yes, it's always a supply issue in
Right.
Key West. There's always a limited supply of
Yeah.
specific homes, specific waterfront homes, and but so that's we are though experiencing an uptick though in inventory. Like there have been more homes that have come to the market. And the thing that happened in Key West that's happened in other markets too is prices went up so high, right? And you have higher insurance costs in a place like Key West. Then you also will have, with the higher home prices, the higher property taxes. So it has pushed some people out.
Okay.
Key West really, it attracts more of, we have a lot of retirees, a lot of people that kind of already had their career and they worked super hard and they just now want more of a laid back lifestyle. And that's that's
Yeah.
what we get in Key West a lot.
Yeah. I've only been there once when I was 10 on a
Okay.
family vacation, but I remember the streets, people were partying, having
Yeah.
fun, just like very lighthearted. It seems
Mhm.
like a really cool place
It is. Yeah.
to live and to work. What do you have like a favorite like story or like favorite home that you've sold down there? Or like, I think people are always curious, like, "Yeah, what's the craziest thing you ever experienced, or like a difficult client, or like, some of those kinds of stories."
I have so many stories I have to even think
You
of
can't even pick
that.
one.
Well, I mean, I can tell you one. This was a cool story for me because this was the first time that it happened for me. During the pandemic, when you heard around the country this was happening, people were buying homes sight unseen. So I had this client that I had only kind of recently met, but we had hit it off. And he was an investor and he called me and said, I need you to go and check out this property for me. And it was a $9 million island that
An
was
island.
an island.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
So
wanted
it
to
wasn't just,
clarify,
yeah,
an island.
it was an
Okay.
island that had two homes on it already, and then you could be building more homes.
Wow.
But what was really cool is it was where Flipper, the movie Flipper, was filmed it. So it's like kind of this cool angle. Like um, they filmed, I guess, scenes from the movie there, and so there were all these dolphins apparently like at this property at years
Years
before.
ago, yeah.
Yeah. And so, anyways, he had called me and said, I want you to tour this property, and it was about an hour and a half drive, so it wasn't in Key West. It was in a little bit further up the Keys.
Okay.
And I do this FaceTime with him. I show him this island. I'm thinking, okay, the chances of him really going for this like are slim to none.
Right.
And the next day I put in an offer for him and he and
He bought an
he
island,
bought an
sight
island.
unseen.
Yes,
Okay.
sight unseen. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was one of my first experiences where that happened, and that was a pretty cool
You're like, I'm
experience.
not in Indiana anymore.
Not in Indiana, exactly. Not in Kansas.
Wow. That's okay. That's wild and so
Yes.
cool.
Mhm.
What do you like love about the job, and what do you think are like some of those transferable skills or things that you've learned like from your career, because it's always been around people, right? Like in a studio or on a set, or now of course with real estate. Like what do you just feel like you've learned about people over these years? Because I feel like you've had some experiences.
I've had some experiences. Well, so real estate, it's so when somebody's purchasing a home, this is many times the largest purchase they're ever going to make
Right.
in their life.
Mhm.
So you really get to see the true colors of someone
Mm.
during the whole transaction,
Mhm.
and you learn patience. As a real estate broker, you really, and many times you turn into like a therapist too, because you've got people who are second guessing. Oh my gosh, am I making the right move? They're calling you at all hours
Mm.
with questions. Also, when I'm working with sellers, it can be nerve-wracking during an inspection period, or if all of a sudden the buyer's coming back with concerns. And so you're just dealing with so many personalities. And then our job is to keep this deal alive.
Right.
So a lot of times, we have the seller gets too much emotion involved, the buyer gets too much emotion involved. So then we're here to mediate, and you have to take out that emotion and
Yeah.
and make the deal happen. So I guess it.
I feel like that too. I feel like in service industry, it's a lot of the like therapy or just like, relating emotionally to the client who you're servicing, because it's the emotion that like
Mhm,
that can take over as
mhm.
opposed to the tactical part of what's going on.
Right. And that's something I've had to learn myself is I've had sellers say not very nice things to me. I've had buyers say not very nice that you have to take emotions out of things, or they do stuff that you advise don't do, but they do it
Mm.
anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to take the emotion out. Just
Yeah.
sometimes you have to be the punching bag too for them, and that it's okay. Again, at the end of the day, you're trying to get them to that next step and get them, if it's a buyer, get them into their dream home. If it's a seller, help them start this new chapter. So,
Do you think there is like a difference between being like a female broker versus a male broker? Like I was just reading an article in the Wall Street Journal this morning on the 1% wealthiest women earners in the
mhm,
country and some of their characteristics and
mhm,
traits for success. And they were saying like an old business adage is that you have to have a thick skin, right,
mhm.
to succeed in business.
Yes.
Well, a lot of these women leaders were saying actually they don't have too thick a skin. They have they get bruised emotionally, but they kind of like learn from it and it
Mhm.
propels them to make a change as opposed to just brushing it off.
I love that,
Yeah.
and that is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Women, we don't have the, and men too. Not everyone has the thickest skin.
Right.
Things can still sting. They can
Right.
hurt us,
Yep.
but it's about just moving forward from it and learning from it. If someone is telling us someone, or you have a story where someone's trying to break you down, as long as you learn from that, you use this as a learning experience, then bring it on.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. But you were saying, is it hard being a
Yeah. Is there a difference, do you think?
Yes. Yeah, there is, and I think now we're seeing more and more women brokers,
Yep.
of course, and powerful women brokers across the country.
Mhm.
And I think that sometimes with men, you just run into sometimes this mentality where they think they're going to be able to handle this client better than a woman's going to be able to handle it, because they just know better than we do. And
And no, they don't.
yeah, exactly.
No, they
There's
don't.
no difference. Like,
Yeah.
I can stand my own ground
Yeah.
too. So,
You certainly can. Talk a little bit about what it's been like using your own platform on social media and some of these
mhm,
marketing tactics, and now obviously working together and like
mhm.
putting you on TV for various interviews related to the housing market or quotes in articles about different properties or what sellers or buyers are up against. How has that sort of enhanced your work platform, or what have been some of your takeaways from it?
It's elevated my business so much. So, number one, it brings me so much credibility.
Hmm.
So, also, I should mention in Key West, so it's the island full-time residents, it's only 25,000 people.
Oh wow.
There are 600 plus real estate agents in Key West. So it is oversaturated with real estate agents.
600.
600 people.
Whoa.
Now, that doesn't mean they're all selling,
Right.
but 600 people have
Their
their
license.
license.
Oh,
They're
wow.
registered in
Yeah.
the Key West Association of Realtors.
Right.
So you have to find something that differentiates you,
Mm.
right, from other
Mhm.
agents. Do something different. Do something that can add a little extra value, or that makes you stand out from the rest of the group. So that's something that I feel like, even with videos, when I would do video tours, that was something that not of other
Mhm.
agents were doing. And now with the TV, with the press, working with you, it just adds this whole other level to my business. And it brings me credibility with my clients when they see me on national TV, or they see me in a national press article.
Mhm.
They love that, and it makes them feel good, like that they've made the right decision.
Yeah. They're like, "Oh, I can trust her. She was
Yes.
just on Fox Business."
Right,
Like,
right,
yeah.
right, right.
It's so true.
And, I had a situation happen too, where I was working on getting, we were kind of competing with some other brokers for a listing. And what happened is that he was making his decision, the seller, and the next morning he was watching Fox Business and he saw me on.
Oh my
And so he
gosh.
made a comment afterwards, like, you know, I might not be the most religious guy, but I have to say, like, that was such a sign right there. So
Oh.
that was that
That's
was a very
amazing.
cool thing. And but again, it's just, you never know who could be watching. And if, it helps bring me business, like, which it does, then it's just been, like I said, a game changer, and it elevates your business.
Yeah.
And also, when I go into listing appointments, it's brought me so much confidence too. When you go on national TV, when you're live, you have to be on your toes. You've got to be ready for anything. And it it has brought me this level of confidence in my business that I can then carry forward when I'm meeting with clients, when I'm in a listing appointment. I know that I know valuable information that other agents don't know, and it changes
I
it
love
changes the game.
hearing that. Thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
because I will say that often too with working in PR and TV, going and doing interviews. There's obviously the direct cause and effect that you see from time to time or often, but there's so many other sort of, soft sort of like advantages that you get
Mhm.
from doing it, like confidence or just, elevating to your
Mhm.
brand. And so it's a nice thing to have kind of in your arsenal, right? In your suite of like tactics that you're
Yes.
using to promote yourself.
Yeah. And there was a time when I was in the business too, and you'd get a little nervous right before a listing appointment.
Mm.
You're going in front of clients, you've got to get them to work with you. And now I always say, I joke, like, I can do live, if I can do live TV, like, bring it on. Like, no one's going to intimidate me at a
Right.
listing appointment or when I'm meeting with clients.
Well,
So,
so tell our listeners and viewers about when you were doing a national hit yesterday and you got asked a question that sort of you wasn't in the prep document,
right.
and wasn't prepared. How did you handle that exact moment? Because that's something that I think a lot of people are always curious about.
So you try to answer what you can,
Mm-hmm.
but you can also then take it more into what you know.
Mm.
So something that I always remind myself is if you get stuck on something, go back to what you know
Mm.
and just take the question to what you know.
Yeah,
And who's going to tell you you're right or wrong then, right? Like
that's true.
that's what you know. So,
The art of the pivot.
yes.
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 Well, you are excellent on TV, and all the
Thank
networks
you.
love having you on. What's next, do you think, for Jenna?
I don't know what's next. I know that I love what I'm doing right now. I love the real estate. I love the TV. I love working with you guys. And I kind of am open to just more opportunities and just seeing where this goes, right? I want it to continue to grow. And I think I'm getting more and more comfortable. And I love studying real estate. Like,
Mm,
I have such a passion for just digging into articles, following national trends, following local trends, but just really, I've just found this like newfound passion for dig. And you really, if you're going to speak on television, you have to know your
you
stuff.
have to know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
Absolutely. And I think also just to be good at your job, you have to love it. You have to
yes.
be curious about whatever it is that you're doing.
Yes, yes. And I love learning new things in this business. I only know a small portion, right? There's so much to know out there. So as I just love digging into it and just trying to make sure I can know everything possible.
So to wrap up, there's a lot of just uncertainty in general
Mhm,
right now in our country in the world. A lot of uncertainty about is now a good time to buy? Should I
mhm.
not? What's your sort of like positive outlook for people who are thinking about buying but maybe feel a little apprehensive or should I sell now? Should I not sell now?
Mhm.
How do you talk to people?
It's so hard to give like a blanket
Yeah.
statement as to when do you buy, when do you sell. And really, my advice, what I'm learning more and more, and what I'm telling clients more and more, is you can't try to time the market. You have to do what's right for you. Now, that doesn't mean don't be aware, like, you need to know what's happening in your local market.
Right.
You have to work. I think it's so important to work with a professional that understands to the trends. And I think that the seller or the buyer needs to understand the trends too. But working with the professional, that's their job. So they should know the market. So you do need to talk with them and understand the local dynamics. But people try to time things too much and
Mm,
then you miss out
mm.
sometimes when you're trying to time. I mean, I don't know if you've ran into people, but I've ran into so many people who said, "Oh, if only I would have bought that like a couple years ago, but I thought I'd wait to see if prices dipped a little bit more, so I didn't."
Yep.
And then look at what happened with prices. They just skyrocketed. So
Right.
you really have to do what's right for you. And if you find that, like, if you're a buyer, you find that perfect house, don't be afraid to start a conversation. Maybe it's outside your price budget, but don't be afraid to start a conversation with the seller. You don't know, that seller could be in a position where they have to sell
Right.
and something just happened in their life, a major event. They've got to unload it.
You're
So,
right. There's so many other factors happening besides just what you see on the listing.
right,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Really good advice. Thank you so much for stopping by today. This was fun.
Thank you for having me,
Tell her,
Annie.
tell her, tell our listeners where they can find you. How can they learn more about you?
So you can find me on my website, JennaStaufferRealEstate.com. I'm on social media too. It's just my name. I think Instagram is like Jenna M. Stauffer.
Mhm.
But yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram,
All the
all
socials,
the
right?
socials. There we go.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Annie.